Hi, I'm Phil Drashfield. I'm your instructor for Food Studies 1603. That would be cost control. Today's first lecture will cover the first two chapters of the textbook. I'm doing this in lecture format to try and get you all caught up. As you all know, the first week here at Brightwater was rough and tumble. We got through it. We're on to our third week of our online course, so I want to get us all caught up on some of the additional content. So one of the things that we have to start with cost control is understanding that food service costs are quite important in the daily operation of a restaurant or food service facility. What you have in any type of facility are variable types of costs. You have fixed costs like your rent, your note payments, your insurance that do not change on a month-to-month basis. You have variable costs that are literally driven by sales. And these variable costs, also controllable costs, which is what you as managers or future managers will do, include food costs, beverage costs, and labor costs. These are your prime costs, which are controllable. And in a perfect operation, big secret, if your food, beverage, and labor costs combined remain under 65%, you should be able to have a profitable operation. If your food, beverage, and labor ever exceed 65%, you're in for some rough weather ahead. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about what are some other types of variable costs that are included. And there's also semi-variable costs. Let's talk about those too. For example, semi-variable costs would include utilities, water usage, gas usage for your kitchen. And when the business is good, you will find that the gas usage goes up. Not necessarily in direct proportion with sales, but you'll see that they are linked, not necessarily linearly. Variable costs, however, your food costs, your labor costs, and your beverage costs are very controllable, number one, and number two, they are linked to your prime costs as well, and these are controllable costs that you as managers need to look at. Your food costs in a restaurant. We'll be talking about that as we move forward because this is where we get involved with culinary math, unfortunately. What the manager's role is in controlling these costs is really focusing on these three prime costs, okay? Your food costs, your labor costs, and your beverage costs, okay? What we try to do to get to those costs, a manager is in charge. He must understand forecasting and budgets, okay? Forecasting is a way of predicting the future, so to speak. You forecast your sales as you look to the weeks ahead so you know how to schedule your labor, how much food to order for your chefs. So forecasting is tremendous because with the help of forecasting, you can create a budget, okay? And a budget is a working document that allows you, kind of gives you a roadmap to get you through a day or a week's worth of business. A budget should tell you approximately what my food costs are expected to be, approximately what my labor costs are expected to be, because I forecasted my sales knowing what my controllable costs are. Got that so far? Okay. Now, what happens is, in the real world, is after you've got your forecasting and your budgets, your accountant or your CPA, Lord knows, maybe even yourself, will create an income statement that is based on actual figures. Now, the actual figures of the income statement comes after the fact. Okay, keep that in mind. You don't get your income statement until the month is already over. Okay, now, at the end of the month, you look at your income statement and you say, hey, wait a minute, there's a problem here. I had my food costs listed at 30% and it's actually at 34%. That's an issue. There is a variance between what was forecast in my budget and what actually showed up in my income statement. Okay? Variance is a tool you will learn to manage with. Okay? just keep this in mind in the great big picture after going through chapters 1 and 2. This is the most important thing to remember. The controllable costs are the manager's role. That's your role, okay? Those include controlling prime costs of food, beverage, and labor. Those have to remain under 65%. You will be taught all the tools about forecasting and budgeting because you will be able to read an income statement and understand its variance to utilize that as a manager's tool, okay? There's one more word up here that I wanted you to talk about, and that's something called shrinkage. Shrinkage in the industry is stuff that disappears, inventory that disappears, okay? Shrinkage comes from theft, shrinkage comes from waste, and shrinkage comes from loss due to over-ordering. Shrinkage is, again, a controllable thing that is going to be controlled by you, the manager. You will need to understand when the food costs are high, is it purchasing? Is it your chef and portion control? Is it your bartender who's giving away 3 steaks a night to get better tips? You'll need to understand, where does the shrinkage come from? You know there's shrinkage because you've discovered a variance after seeing the income statement for the month, knowing what your food was budgeted, how it was forecast, your numbers are not quite right, you have a variance, leads you to suspect shrinkage. We'll do this next time.